Our story really begins here.
In the countryside of England lies a small village called Wall, named so after the stone wall that surrounds it, except for a minor gap at one end, and said to border the mystical Stormhold Kingdom.
A wall that, according to local folklore,
For generations, the people of Wall have told many myths and folklore about the extraordinary magical kingdom that lies on the other side, but none have ever managed to witness it themselves, as the gap in the wall is fiercely guarded 24/7 by a wise old man. One day, an ambitious young man named Dunstan approaches the old man and asks to be let in, just for a moment, so that he can explore the seemingly normal fields that are seen on the other side of the wall.
Look, do you see another world out there?
The old man ridicules Dunstan for even considering such an idea and scolds him for trying to break a centuries-old tradition.
Hundreds of years this wall's been here.
The old man then threatens to bring Dunstan in front of the village council if he doesn't let up and return home, which forces Dunstan to ease up for a moment.
Front of the village council.
However, just as the old man drops his guard, believing the discussion is over, Dunstan unexpectedly runs over the gap and successfully makes it to the other side before the old man gets time to react. Dunstan runs too deep into the new territory just until he feels confident that he's safe from the old man, and then starts walking in wonderment as he finds himself in the middle of an exotic market, where different magical items like multi-headed animals are put on display. Just as he goes further into the market, Dunstan is mesmerized by a beautiful woman named Una tending to a flower shop and stops to admire her beauty. Then, Una's mean boss, named Ditchwater Sal, orders her to help Dunstan before leaving to bring some items. Una and Dunstan get to talking and mutually flirt back and forth before Una recommends he buy a snowdrop flower, known to bring its owner luck and protection. The duo continues chit-chatting and enjoying each other's company until Una asks Dunstan to join her in her caravan. Dunstan gladly agrees, but as he follows her, he is shocked to see that Una is tied with a flimsy-looking long chain at her ankle. Hoping to free his new crush, Dunstan attempts to cut the rope, but is shocked to see it regenerate and be as good as new. Seeing Dunstan's confusion, Una confides in him that the chain is an enchanted one, and that she's an enslaved princess who can only be freed when her evil mistress dies.
I'll only be free when she dies.
Before Dunstan can process this information, later that night, Dunstan manages to discreetly return to Wall and goes on with his life as if nothing happened. 9 months later, the old wise guard brings a beautiful baby boy named Tristan, cradled in a small basket, to Dunstan's house and informs him that the unexpected gift has been left for him next to the gap in the wall. 18 years later, Tristan grows up to be an innocent, kind young man who never questions the identity of his mother and works at the local store to help support his father with some expenses. One day, Tristan meets a local girl named Victoria at the store and falls in love with her. Despite her complete indifference to his existence, the young boy tries everything he can to impress her and convince her to give him a chance. One night, Tristan buys some flowers and goes to see Victoria at her house, like he does every other night. There, hearing her name, Victoria rushes out to her window to see who her visitor is and is disappointed to see Tristan, excitedly waiting to speak to her. Then, Victoria informs the smitten young man that her boyfriend, Humphrey, is on his way.
Oh no, I just thought I could...
Which is proved a few minutes later when Humphrey arrogantly shows up at Victoria's house, rudely destroys Tristan's flowers with his sword and pushes him down, embarrassing him in front of Victoria and her friends. The next morning, Tristan wakes up late and rushes to the shop to report for his duty. There, he tends to the numerous customers and helps them find what they need until Victoria walks in, looking to buy some items. Tristan forgets the rest of the customers and absent-mindedly starts tending to his crush, to the dismay of his boss, who observes the interaction from the other side of the store. To make matters worse, Victoria declines Tristan's request to see her that night and instead asks him to walk her home, right in the middle of his shift. Giddy at the request, Tristan carries Victoria's items and leaves the store to walk his crush to her home, which automatically gets him fired. Later, Tristan scaredly tells his father what happened at work and is glad to have an understanding ear in Dunstan, who full-heartedly supports him, assures him that everything will be okay, and advises him to stay true to himself. Later that night, Tristan goes to the market and uses up all of his savings to buy a drink and a few snacks for a picnic before going to Victoria's house and inviting her to join him.
I have something for you. A surprise.
Victoria hesitatingly joins him and is impressed by the gesture as she shares the fancy drink with her admirer. However, as the duo updates each other about their life, Tristan is gutted and feels less than to hear that Humphrey has promised Victoria that he will go all the way to Ipswich to get her the perfect engagement ring. Hoping to make his case for the last time, Tristan confesses that there's nothing he wouldn't do for Victoria's hand in marriage, including going to any continent she asked him to get anything she dreamed of. On the other side of the wall, in the magical kingdom of Storm Stormhold, the elderly king of the kingdom lies on his deathbed and so calls for 4 of his sons, Prince Septimus, Prince Secundus, Prince Primus, and Prince Tertius, to come to see him at his quarters in his palace. A few hours later, everyone makes the meeting except Secundus, and the king is forced to wait for him to discuss the matter of his successor. After a brief waiting period, Secundus rushes to his father's side, apologizing for his tardiness, and the meeting goes underway. The king reminds his sons how he had to kill all 11 of his brothers to assume complete control of the kingdom, and makes remarks looking down on his sons' lack of passion to make such a gesture to show how much they want the throne.
My kingdom?
Then, the king orders Secundus to look out of the window into the kingdom so that he can get a feel of it, and while the tardy son complies with the suggestion, the king discreetly communicates with Septimus, who sneaks behind Secundus and throws him off the tall palace tower to his death. Then, the king goes into a trance, forgets where he is, and starts asking for his daughter, Una, until the princes remind him that she has been lost for a long time, and agree not to go after her, as the throne only passes to male heirs, which excludes her from the threat list. Then, in his dying breath, the king comes up with an idea, takes his special ruby necklace, suspends it in mid-air, robs it of its rich red color, and declares that he who manages to find the ruby and restore it to its rich color shall be crowned king. Before any of the princes can grab the precious jewel, it vanishes before their eyes and is seen traveling through space, inadvertently knocking off a star and returning to Stormhold to fall into a crater along with the star.
Oh, Tristan, a shooting star!
In Wall, at the picnic, Tristan and Victoria admire the beauty of the fallen star as it flies past them, right after which the smitten boy promises his crush to cross the wall into Stormhold and bring her the fallen star as a sign of his love for her and to ask her hand in marriage. Fascinated by the prospect, Victoria gives Tristan a week to make everything happen, warning him she will go ahead and marry Humphrey if he takes longer than that. Elsewhere, ancient witch Lamia sees the shooting star, excitedly runs to wake her fellow ancient witch sisters, Mempo and Empusa, and tells them the developments. The duo wakes up in excitement and joins their sister in planning their next moves. As the first order of business, the sisters search their shabby castle for any remnants of the Babylon candle, which gives its owners the special power to travel anywhere they wish in just a few seconds. After much searching, the sisters are disappointed to find none left, but resolve to do whatever it takes to get to the precious fallen star. Then, Empusa dissects one of her small animal pets, looks through the organs, and learns that the fallen star is 1,000 miles away.
Be warned, Lamia. Delicacies needed.
Then, as it's custom in their ancient tradition, the sisters blindly pick through the carcass of the small animal to see who gets to follow the star. Not wanting to miss out on the special assignment, Lamia discreetly cheats and is awarded the honor. Before she can officially begin the centuries-old quest, Lamia is presented with a small remnant of the last fallen star's heart, retrieved 4 centuries ago. As her sisters watch in utter jealousy, Lamia eats the magical heart, which sheds the years from her body and turns her into a beautiful young woman. Elsewhere, in Wall, in hopes of crossing over the wall to look for the shooting star, Tristan heads to the gap, where he's met by the elderly guard, who forbids him from crossing over and orders him to return to his homestead. Tristan acknowledges the order and starts to walk back to Wall, but then tries to trick the old man and run past him, just like his father had done years ago. Having learned from his previous mistake, the old man quickly reacts, engages Tristan in a fight, and successfully defends the honor of the Wall. Tristan returns home nursing his bruised face, which shocks his caring father. Upon learning the details of the event, Dunstan realizes that it's time to come clean and tells Tristan everything he knows about Una and the amusing events of the night he was conceived. As the young man processes this in utter fascination, Dunstan hands him a few trinkets sent by Una in the basket, along with him 18 years ago. Tristan is amused to go through the trinkets and find a piece of the enchanted chain, the snowflower, and a Babylon candle, wrapped by a letter explaining Una's love for him and advising him to use the candle to make quick getaways. Amused by everything, Tristan casually lights the candle, which leads to a sudden bright light into which Tristan seemingly disappears. As Dunstan sits stunned wondering what happened, Tristan is flown through the sky, past the wall, and lands on top of the fallen star, who had just woken up from her concussion and put on the special ruby necklace around her neck. Tristan quickly recovers from his fall, and after seeing no sign of his mother anywhere, questions the star who she is and what's going on. After a few minutes minutes of confusing interaction, Tristan is stunned to realize that the shooting star has landed on Earth in the form of a young woman named Yvain. This doesn't discourage the love-stricken young man, though, and he proceeds to tie the enchanted chain around Yvain and attempts to drag her back to Wall while she resists. The duo reaches an impasse and just sit there, facing off against one another. In the Stormhold Castle, the bishop takes Primus aside and endorses him to be the next king, which is overheard by the rest of the princes. The brothers are annoyed by this, and as they confront Primus, they are served with wine by the staff. Moments later, both the bishop and Tertius immediately fall to their deaths, leaving only Primus and Septimus to fight for the throne. Elsewhere, Lamia sets out to find the falling star's heart so that she and her sisters can eat it and return to their youthful days. In the crater, Tristan and Yvain get into a fight about how to proceed, and after some argument, Tristan convinces the fallen star to follow him home and promises to give her the Babylon candle and return her to the sky after he presents her to Victoria.
Please, let me sleep.
On the other side of Stormhold, Lamia leaves her castle and joins the common folk as her young, beautiful self. After walking a while, Lamia runs into a shepherd named Bernard, transforms him into a goat, and kidnaps him along with one of his goats so that they can pull her cart. Everyone searches for the fallen star and the jewel in their own ways. Septimus and Primus, who are accompanied by the ghost of his dead brothers, travel across opposite fields, following their respective tips, while Lamia rides her cart towards the crater and Tristan leads Yvain to Wall. After traveling some distance, Lamia runs into Ditchwater Sal, taking a break from her own travel and cooking a meal, and asks to join her so that she can take some rest and re-energize. Recognizing the Queen of Darkness, Ditchwater Sal orders Una, whom she has now turned into a bird, to look after her while she cooks their lunch. However, after chit-chatting a bit, Lamia realizes that Ditchwater Sal has put a grass that extracts the truth out of anyone who ingests it, called Limbus grass, in her food, and unleashes her fury on the devious fellow witch. Lamia then curses Ditchwater Sal to never find, see, or hear the precious fallen star.
Look again.
And benefit from her for as long as he lives before fleeing her company. On the other side of the magical kingdom, Tristan leads Yvain through the woods to Wall while she complains of exhaustion and begs him to let her rest. After much pleading, Yvain convinces Tristan to let her doze off on the side of a tree while he ties her to a tree by the enchanted chain and goes off to the nearest village to find some food. Elsewhere, Septimus locates the soothsayer who'd given him false information on where to find the jewel and interrogates him to find out his intentions. After a few minutes of questioning, Septimus realizes that the soothsayer actually works for Primus and purposefully misled him and stabs him to death. In the evening, in the woods, Yvain hears some mysterious sounds and becomes scared. Moments later, the sound reveals itself to be from a unicorn who calmly goes up to the fallen star, manages to untie her, and carries her away. Meanwhile, Lamia realizes that she's lost the star's direction and telepathically consults her sisters for help. After studying their various items, the sisters tell her not to worry and that the fallen star is heading towards her direction. The sisters add that the star has been through a lot and advise Lamia to make her comfortable and make her heart glow before she kills her. Lamia then gets to work by turning Bernard into a young girl and the goat to a man named Billy. Then she magically constructs an elaborate inn in the middle of nowhere to tempt the exhausted star to seek shelter there. Elsewhere in the woods, Tristan dozes off under the tree while trying to decide what to do next and is contacted by a star in his sleep who informs him that Yvain is in danger and is heading into a trap. The star adds that Lamia and her sisters trapped a falling star 400 years ago and tricked her before ripping her heart out and eating a piece of it to regain their youth. The star then wakes Tristan, tells him that a coach is on its way, and orders him to get on it as fast as possible. Then, Tristan shakes off his sleep and runs to meet the coach. As foretold, Tristan sees the coach ridden by Primus, and without recognizing the prince, begs and convinces him to give him a ride. Meanwhile, Yvain rides her unicorn through the rain, and after going a few miles, she is delighted to see an inn in the middle of nowhere. Yvain hesitatingly knocks on the door and is received warmly by Lamia. Then, the dark witch tempts the exhausted young girl with a warm bath and even discreetly heals her injured leg. Then, Lamia leads Yvain to bed.
No, I'm only a simple innkeeper's wife.
Offers to give her a relaxing massage, and proceeds to take her magical knife to cut the star's heart. However, this brutal act is interrupted by Primus's knock on the inn's door, which is answered by Billy. Primus enters the inn and immediately jumps into the bath to relax relax. Lamia sees her new guest from the back room, puts poison in a glass of wine, and brings it to the prince, who graciously refuses before asking Lamia to send the wine to his friend, tending to his horse in the stable. Primus then meets with Yvain, who has come to the living room to see the new guest, while Bernard is sent to take the poisoned wine to Tristan in the stable. In the living room, after a few minutes of chit-chatting, Primus recognizes the precious stone on Yvain's neck and orders her to surrender it to him. While in the stable, as Tristan proceeds to take a sip of the poisoned wine, the unicorn jumps out of nowhere, spills it out of his hand, and reveals the poison's true nature. Terrified by what he sees, Tristan runs to the living room to warn Primus to be careful, but as soon as he gets there, he witnesses the prince being stabbed and killed by Lamia. All hell breaks loose in the fake inn, and Lamia turns Billy back into a goat and orders it to attack Tristan and Yvain, who have reunited. The unicorn meddles once again and saves the duo, which enrages Lamia into setting the place ablaze. Desperate to escape, Tristan holds on to Yvain, tells her to think of home, and uses the Babylon candle to disappear from the insanity. However, moments later, the duo finds itself among the clouds, halfway between both their homes, and are annoyed at the misunderstanding. Moments later, the duo is captured by pirates in a flying ship and are interrogated about their identity before being presented to the captain, Captain Shakespeare, who orders his crew to detain the guests for the night. While in detainment, having nothing else to do, Tristan and Yvain get to know each other and their dreams. Meanwhile, Septimus finds Primus's body and delightedly announces that as the last surviving son, he is now the new king of the mystical kingdom. However, his delight is short-lived, as he is soon reminded that he still needs the precious jewel to claim the throne. And as he prepares to continue searching, he runs into Bernard, who has been abandoned in the middle of a field by Lamia. Upon interrogation, Bernard informs the prince of everything he witnessed in the last few days, including the coveted fallen star's heart. Septimus analyzes everything and realizes that the heart of the fallen star gives eternal life, which excites him to no end.
This idiot's coming with us.
And motivates him to gear his search towards both the star and the stone. On the other side, Lamia sees her youthful disguise disintegrating and telepathically consults her sisters, who tell her that Yvain is now airborne and warn her that Prince Septimus is also looking for the star. When her sisters start doubting her ability to perform the task, Lamia assures them by promising to bring Yvain home and finish the deed in front of them. On the flying ship the next morning, Captain Shakespeare brutally interrogates the duo and threatens to commit unspeakable atrocities towards them for the benefit of his crew, who know him to be a fearless, cruel leader. He then convinces his crew he has killed and disposed of Tristan while taking Yvain to his quarters in the name of having his way with her. Inside his quarters, the captain warmly hosts Tristan and Yvain and asks them to keep him updated about England. Then, the captain gives the duo a makeover and reintroduces Tristan as his nephew to his gullible crew while he announces that Yvain is a family friend. In the next few days, the captain teaches Tristan to fence while he teaches Yvain to dance. The duo has a blissful time aboard the flying ship and is welcomed by all of the crew. One day, the captain figures out Yvain's true identity, but assures her that she has nothing to worry about and promises to keep her secret. Then, the captain rallies his crew to escort Tristan to his hometown, and they start flying towards Wall. After a long journey, the captain shares an emotional farewell with Tristan and Yvain and drops them off at a lake a few miles away from Wall. Tristan and Yvain start their long walk towards Wall while getting to know each other better. Curious to know how he feels, Yvain asks Tristan if he would kill a star to live eternally, but is relieved to hear that he is not tempted by the concept of eternity as everyone else seems to be. Elsewhere, Lamia is informed of Yvain's destination by her sisters and is pointed to a shortcut that would lead her to catch up with them in no time. Septimus tracks Yvain to Captain Shakespeare's ship, and he barges in there, along with his men, to learn all he can about the star's current whereabouts. There, the pirates manage to subdue all of the prince's men and rescue their captain from the surprise attack.
See if you can work it out for yourself.
After covering a long distance, Tristan and Yvain reach a sign that informs them that Wall is 60 miles away, which panics Yvain and forces her to hurry Tristan, reminding him that Victoria's birthday is only a few days away, and so they have to pick up their pace to get there in time. Tristan and Yvain continue their journey and run into Ditchwater Sal, riding her caravan across a bridge, upon Yvain's encouragement as Una watches the interaction in the form of a bird. Tristan approaches the witch to ask her for a lift, but instead is shocked when she recognizes the snowflower on his collar and accepts excitedly exclaims that she has been looking for it for the last 18 years. Tristan calmly offers to give the flower to the witch and asks for a Babylon candle in exchange. Ditchwater Sal explains that she doesn't have what he needs and convinces the young man to give her the flower anyway and offers to get him to the wall in one piece. As soon as Tristan gives her the magical protective flower, Ditchwater Sal turns him into a mouse and carries him into the caravan, to the utter terror of Yvain, who soon realizes that the witch has no ability to see or hear her. Yvain uses this to her advantage and jumps into the caravan with Tristan, hoping to make sure he is all right. Along the way, Yvain confesses to Mouse Tristan that she has fallen in love with him in the last few days and that all she wants is to be with him. After a long ride in the caravan, the group reaches the marketplace near Wall, where Ditchwater Sal takes Mouse Tristan out, returns him to his human form, and informs him that he is only a couple of miles away from Wall. Yvain helps Tristan to a nearby inn, where the duo decides to rest for the night before they continue the few miles journey to Wall the next morning. Meanwhile, Lamia learns of Yvain's whereabouts and worries, since she knows that once Yvain crosses the wall to the land of humans, she will turn into a useless metallic stone. The next morning, Tristan rises early, takes a lock of Yvain's hair, leaves a message for Yvain with the inn's keeper, and heads to Wall to see Victoria. Yvain wakes up a couple of hours later and is confused to see that Tristan is gone. Then she receives a misinterpreted message from the inn's keeper, which implies that Tristan has abandoned her to go to Wall and reunite with Victoria, and is heartbroken. As Yvain marches towards the Wall in devastation, Una, now in human form, sees her and tries to advise her against going to the Wall, but is held off by the chain still around her ankles. Hence, out of desperation, Una locks the sleeping Ditchwater Sal in the caravan and starts riding it as fast as she can to catch up with Yvain. In Wall, Tristan goes to see Victoria at her house, wishes her a happy birthday, and hands her Yvain's lock of hair.
Where's my star? Can I see it?
However, this doesn't impress Tristan at all, and he shrugs Victoria off, informing her that he is no longer interested. This interaction is then interrupted by Humphrey, who suddenly starts to challenge Tristan to a sword fight until Tristan pulls out a large, fancy sword and holds his own. Angered by his dismissal, Victoria opens to see the lock of hair and is even more frustrated to see that it is just stardust. Noticing this, Tristan realizes that Yvain's hair must have turned to dust once he crossed over Wall, understands the implication that Yvain will die if she ever enters Wall, and runs back to Stormhold to warn her. At the Wall, Una catches up with Yvain just as she is about to cross the border to the land of humans and stops her, after warning her that she will turn to stone if she ever crosses it. As soon as the caravan stops, Ditchwater Sal breaks from inside and attempts to attack Una until Lamia arrives and breaks it up. Then Lamia and Ditchwater Sal enter into a witch fight, in which Lamia comes on top and kills Ditchwater Sal. This breaks the decades-long curse of slavery on Una, and she is finally liberated from the enchanted chain. However, immediately afterwards, Lamia ties Una and Yvain together, puts them into her carriage, and rides to the dark castle she shares with her sisters. There, Lamia proudly reveals Yvain as the coveted-after star and Una as their new slave.
And who else? A slave for us.
Which excites the sisters to no end, while on the other side of the kingdom, both Septimus and Tristan look for Yvain and track her to the witch's castle. There, Tristan and Septimus run into each other and agree to temporarily work together to defeat the witches. Septimus enters the castle first, and as he proceeds to attack the first woman he sees, he is shocked to recognize her as his long-lost sister Una. Then, after a brief reunion with his sister, Septimus fuels forwards, fights with Mormo, and kills her, while Tristan reunites with Una, who pleasantly surprises him by telling him that she is his long-lost mother. On the other side of the castle, Lamia constructs a voodoo doll of Septimus, drowns it, and kills the prince. Tristan then intelligently frees all the caged animals in the castle, who unleash their fury on Impusa and kill her. Then, Lamia feigns a mental breakdown, pretends to free the couple, takes a moment to regain her strength, and starts attacking them full throttle. Yvain then holds on to Tristan, concentrates on harnessing her star power, and shines bright, which destroys Lamia once and for all. Then, as Una congratulates Yvain, Tristan finds the precious jewel, which turns back to its original ruby color upon the young man's touch. Una declares her son the last male heir of the king's bloodline and hence the next king.
The last surviving male heir of the Stormhold bloodline.
In the aftermath, in addition to all the people of Stormhold, including Captain Shakespeare and his crew, Victoria and Humphrey are invited to the grand coronation of Tristan and watch in delight as the bishop crowns the young boy as the new king of Stormhold, with Yvain as his queen. Dunstan Tristan and Una reunite to continue their relationship and give the new king and his queen a Babylon candle as a coronation present. King Tristan and Queen Yvain rule over Stormhold for the next 80 years, and once their children and grandchildren are grown up, they decide to continue living their eternal lives as stars and use the Babylon candle to travel to the skies for good. Although inadvertently, Tristan finds someone who values and appreciates him as much as he does, which changes his life for the better as he no longer has to prove his worth or intentions. This goes a long way to teach us to stay true to who we are, like Tristan did, and not to compare our lives with others, as we all have our own journeys. This also helps us understand that we should know our worth and not settle for anything less than what we deserve in any relationship.